I wrestled the cover off for the CVT, continuously variable transmission. Discovered a bit of a mouse house in there. Get that cleared out, but it is going to allow me to rotate the engine from this side. Seemed like the cover on the other side was going to have oil behind it. All right. Ugh. The intake valves are open and they kind of have no clearance. Now, okay, there's a little bit. I'm going to crank this around by hand and look down in at that cam lobe for the exhaust valves. Apparently they can wear out, but that one actually doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's on its base circle. Got some clearance while I'm in here. I think I'll try to find a spec for valve clearance and go ahead and set that. So there was valve clearance, but seemed a little tight to me. So the specs I found on the interwebs are 6/1000ths. That's a 6/1000ths feeler gauge. I'm gonna go with that. Great. Alright, that's good. Exhaust valves are way down there. So let me turn the engine over. Exhaust valves are closing right now. The intakes are starting to open. So I know the exhaust cam should be on its base circle at that point. Can go a little bit more just to be sure. You're not going to be able to see that anyway, so I'm going to check and adjust them. So I've connected my Harbor Freight leak down tester, and I believe I set it up right, and it's showing leakage is in the low or the green range, so I mean I can hear air coming out, but I can't really tell where it's coming from. So back to the drawing board. So I've checked the spark, and the spark appears to be pretty weak and erratic, so we're going to go in and look for where the ignition pickup is what I've found out is behind this cover. That's where the recoil starter would be if it wasn't already missing on this machine. So we will get this cover off because apparently there's no oil behind there like I thought earlier. It's the starter drive, so that might be where some of the metal shavings that are in here are coming from. But you can see there's the ignition pickup, and there's a raised spot on the flywheel that triggers it every time it comes around. So we're going to go in there and try to look at that gap. I'll turn that thing around so you can see. But that gap is apparently supposed to be like 20/1000ths, and this one, by the time we get it around and look at it, is like a 1/4 inch. It's pretty substantial. There's the spot that it triggers on. So if we look down in behind here, you can see, yeah, maybe we can see. Anyway, we need to get that gap closer. So I'm going to put some feeler gauges in there and try to measure it, and then try to somehow adjust it so it's closer to that raised spot, and we'll see what happens after that. So that's the ignition pickup. I've managed to loosen those screws with a right angle screwdriver, and probably more just bent it. They don't appear to be slotted. I've read about people taking it off and elongating the holes, but I really don't want to get in and try to pull that flywheel off there today. So I have managed to move it closer. I don't know if this will show up or not. You can see down through right there is how much gap, and it's about 25 thousandths. And I've tried to get all the metal shavings and dust off of it. So it's essentially bent forward. Fortunately, you can't test it until you put all that back together because the starter drive falls out. So let me put this back together and we'll try it again. So our spark looks a lot more consistent. I'm going to crank it and hopefully we can see it. So now I guess I need to go back and check my fuel situation. It also could be that the timing is just like way off, but I'm not too sure how to check or adjust that. So let me try to get some fuel to it and see what happens. So of course the camera was off and I had a moderate degree of success by doing this little crude trick here. A couple drops of fuel down the cylinder. Stick the spark plug back in. Of course, it'll probably make a liar out of me. Key on. It did fire. So that proves that it will. Now I've got to figure out why I'm not getting fuel through my nice clean carburetor. So I've pulled the carburetor back off, rechecked it, make sure it was clean. It looked like there might have been some junk in the idle jet. I have poured some fuel down my little hose setup here. Hook the throttle back up. Let's see if it'll run. Here I can look at my spark strength. It's about what I'd expect. That looks pretty good. All right, now we will put it back together, and I need to replace some fuel hoses. They were kind of nasty, so work on that and see if it'll run when it's put together. All right, there we go. It's running. Let's see if it makes it out of the driveway.
I'm surprised this is on two-wheel. It makes it up and down the hills, most of the hills I've seen in Tennessee.
Another happy customer. See you next time.